in the midst of the entire debate around the Hobby Lobby case, which relates to Obamacare providing no-cost contraception, birth control, to employees of companies and whether or not you can have a religious exemption which prevents birth control from being in there, Congresswoman Michele Bachmann, a Republican from Minnesota, of course, is worried that this could lead, listen to this, to President Obama and Democrats withholding life-saving drugs and instead mandating the distribution of so-called killer drugs like birth control. I don't understand it either. Let's listen to the Congresswoman.
If you looked at the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, you knew with certainty when you woke up tomorrow morning that your religious liberties were intact. Now, apparently today, the gentleman was in the chamber and heard that according to at least one Supreme Court justice, in her opinion, they aren't so much certain anymore. It is at not only the election of the court, but at the election of the unnamed bureaucrat who decides today we'll have these killer drugs that we mandate. Tomorrow, what drugs will they take off the list? Will I not get life-saving drugs that I would need to get? Will I not get life-saving treatments that I thought I was going to get? Will the bureaucrats decide that only politically connected best friends of the administration get certain surgical procedures?
Yeah, and then she also said that thing at the end about how you'll only get access to surgical procedures that will save your life if you're politically well-connected. She has completely lost her mind at this point, and we can't really address what she's suggesting is, of course, at face value absurd. I mean, birth control, killer drugs, I don't know what on earth she's talking about. I wonder, however, since this is all based around Michele Bachmann's so-called religious freedom and adherence to the Bible, her interpretation of the Bible, does Michele Bachmann realize that her own religion in Corinthians 14:34 says as a woman, she's not even allowed to speak in church? Does she realize that her own religion in Timothy 2:12 says that women cannot teach men or assume any authority over men? Isn't she ostensibly educating all of the men in Congress with this speech about killer drugs? Lewis, why will she not follow her religion?
That's a pretty good question. Maybe she leaves those parts out, as often people do. They tend to just pick and choose different verses in the Bible and kind of just stick with those.
Does anyone else notice that when right-wingers use the term religious liberties, they're referring to the social privileges they desire by virtue of being Christians in the United States? Their liberties are not being threatened at all. It's the privileges that they want and want to have imposed on others that are being correctly questioned, and people are saying, wait a second, does this make sense at all? It's always a religious liberty that is being attacked. Oh, and freedom of speech too, Lewis.
Freedom of speech is, yeah, it's all just intertwined. There's really no separating, no separation of anything here.
Corporations are people, and money is speech, and religious freedom is the ability to impose your beliefs on others, even if they violate those others' freedom of speech. But it is actually Dr. Laura who lost her freedom of speech when people were offended that she used the N-word 11 times on the radio. Yeah, it's quite a racket that they have going, I'll tell you. Also quite a racket, cats are now watching the David Pakman show. This is huge breaking news. We'll have that for you next. You're not going to want to miss it.